Have you ever convinced yourself that the reason you're running isn't improving is because you just need a different training plan or a new app or a new coach or maybe a different race or a new piece of gear? Definitely a new piece of gear. Today I want to talk about something that we see runners doing all the time. And honestly, it's something that I just caught myself doing recently. And that thing is shiny object syndrome, and that can keep you stuck. So today we're going to talk about shiny object syndrome, how to know if what you're doing or the change that you want to make or the change that you're currently making is just another shiny object that you're chasing that's not actually going to move the needle and help you, or if it is actually an improvement, an enhancement, or an upgrade to your training. So stay tuned. What's up, runners? Welcome back to the podcast. We're all the way up to podcast 453, Kev.
453.
Pretty fun. Shiny object syndrome. Kevin and I were talking about what we were going to talk about on the podcast, like we like to do all the time.
As we're prone to doing.
And so we're coming up a little short this week and trying to think of, because one of the things that we like to do when we think of topics for the podcast is what's going on in our life, what's going on in the lives of our clients and the people that we coach, what are some of the trends that we're seeing with people recently. And so as I was thinking about it, this idea of shiny object syndrome popped into my head, because this is definitely something that I have, the trap that I've fallen into many a time in my life. And I think that it's one of those traps that we can easily fall into as runners, because there's a lot of shiny objects in the running world.
Yeah, there's tons of shiny objects. If you just look for, you could probably Google how to improve my run and come up with thousands of different shiny objects that will magically fix everything for you.
Exactly. So that's actually what inspired this episode. So I'm just going to be very honest with all of you, and those of you that are listening to the podcast that are our current members inside of our team membership, you will know this firsthand. So recently, I very periodically in the business, I like to evaluate. I'm always constantly evaluating how things are going in the business and whether or not the things that we're doing are serving our clients in the best way, and that we're not also just getting stuck in shiny object syndrome. And turns out that's what happened to me basically over the last couple of months. So one of the things that kind of came up in the platform that we were using to deliver our training plans was I was not a huge fan of the strength training portion of the platform. It's a fantastic platform for running and structuring your workouts, and it syncs to watches, and there's all these amazing features for the running side of things. But for the strength side, one of the biggest things that it was missing was the ability to program sets, reps, and weights and really track progress over time. And so I started to look into different options for that, and I chose a different platform, and that had a really good strength training platform like built in. And so what I decided to do is I started off with just a few people. I think I had 5 women at first that agreed to test out this platform, and they liked it. They gave me some feedback, but overall they liked it. I was like, okay, you know what? We're going to give this a shot. So we migrated the rest of our members over there and spent months building this thing out. And as I was building it out and investing time and money and energy into this platform and doing this on a bigger scale with the rest of our members, I realized that this new platform had its own problems. And that really made me step back for a second and understand that the system that I was already using wasn't broken. It just needed improvements. And here I was like looking for some magic bullet essentially to fix the strength training programs and fix all the things. And I spent months trying to overhaul something that really just needed refinement. There was plenty of ways that I could take the system that we were using and make it better. And that's what I genuinely needed to do, and that's what I ended up doing in the end. Is I decided to migrate everyone back to the platform that we were using previously. And just improve it, because that's really what needed to happen. It just needed to take the system that I was already using and make it even better, make it more simple, make it more user-friendly. And I had the ability to do that in the system that I was currently using. I didn't need to overhaul and create a whole new system. And I think that this is what we see runners trying to do all the time.
Yeah, I think it also reflects the beginning of our relationship. You didn't need a whole new person. You just needed to refine the boyfriend that you were with so that it was more user-friendly and able to interact with others.
That is not in the outline. I did not see that one coming. What are you talking about?
You didn't say, I was ready for that one. Her story's going. I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. She's teeing up a wonderful joke here, and I'm going for it.
Just needed to refine the current boyfriend I had.
You just needed a little bit of refinement on me so that I would be able to interact with those around me, with those around you.
Those around me?
Yeah. Yeah, so that user interactions, I think, is really
perfect.
Yeah,
excellent.
But to be more serious, this does happen all the time with runners. Coming off of my last race, one of the big things is like that plan didn't work because my race wasn't as successful as I wanted to be. Something went wrong. Do I need to just completely scrap it and overhaul the plan and start from scratch? And that happens to runners all the time, especially after a race that doesn't go exactly how they want. They're like, that plan was bad. I need a completely new plan.
Yeah. And a lot of times you can gain a lot of benefits from repeating the same plan that you were on, depending on what kind of plan it is, what your goal is, all that kind of thing. But a lot of times what we see is people they love to blame the plan, but if they get truly honest with themselves, and we've had our clients fall into this trap, I know other people fall into this trap all the time. If they're honest, they didn't actually follow the plan the way that it was written. They missed things or they modified things and they didn't actually follow the plan. So it wasn't that the plan wasn't working. It was that there was other things that kept getting in their way.
Yeah. If you're only doing 60% of whatever plan, is it ever really the plan's fault? It's probably not. Or if it's not necessarily because of a race, people just get bored on a plan and they try a new one, then no plan's going to be successful because you never give it long enough to actually work its way through into... Your body doesn't adapt immediately. It'll adapt to almost anything.
It takes time.
But it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes along with the whole idea of downloading new apps also. It's not just the training plan. Oh, it must be the app. Oh, I need a Garmin plan or a Nike plan or Runna or Strava or these AI training plans. But none of them are solving the core issue. If you're not being consistent, then that's the core issue. Or if you don't have an actual system that works, it's not just about the training plan. It's your whole system that goes into your training. And we talk about your training system all the time here on the podcast. It involves everything that's going on in your life. It's not just about what's written in the plan or what's in the app in your phone.
Yeah, and all those different apps, they all try and integrate what's going on in your body with various metrics they're measuring, but a lot of them essentially look at what you're currently doing, and then whether it's a Garmin that's like taking your heart rate and various other like quote-unquote recovery metrics that it may or may not be measuring accurately, and says this is how prepared you are to run on the day. But if you wake up feeling amazing and your watch thinks that you're not feeling amazing, it's not going to even have a plan that makes sense for you. It's going to be like, oh, we need a recovery day. No, I feel awesome. But two years back when I ran 100 miles, fastest 100 miles I ran, my watch told me I was at 0 was my training for the day.
You were at baseline.
I was at baseline. It wasn't going to be a good day. It wasn't going to be a bad day. It was at 0. And it was the first 0 that I'd had in probably 6 months. It was like, that's an unfortunate time to get a 0. But I think the recommendation on the day was like 30 minutes easy. Yeah, I'm going to go for 18 hours. So let's see what it thinks about that.
Let's see what happens there. So speaking of races, that's also another shiny object that we see a lot of runners get distracted by, which is constantly changing races or constantly thinking that they need to pick a race in order to have motivation. But the problem isn't motivation. It's consistency with your training. And there's a lot of people that think, oh, I have to have a plan in order to be consistent. And I would offer that plans or races can be great. Races can be very helpful, but they don't solve the problem of consistency. They can be great for you to measure how you're doing and measure progress, but consistency needs to come first if you want to have success in your races.
Yeah, if races are just going on your calendar to build consistency, it's tricky to maintain consistent improvement if you're constantly racing. There gets to a point where there's too many races on a calendar where it's tough to even schedule good progress, because unless you're looking at several of the races as I'm just training through that, that actually fits into my training schedule. Because races are races, and while they can be like a B race that builds you up towards your A race, if you're racing every weekend, it's tough to fit in most of the training plan.
It's not only tough to fit it in, it's tough to optimize. And if you, like Kevin said, if you have the right mindset going into it and you understand that, okay, this is just part of my training, and you don't get mad if you don't hit a PR or a time or a pace that you want, then it's fine. But there's a lot of runners out there that we talk to that want to optimize for every race, and that's just not how the body works. That's not how adaptation works. We have to know what the actual goal is and train for that race, especially if you're doing races of different distances, because the body adapts differently when it comes to, say, a 5K versus a marathon, and that training should be different. The foundational pieces are the same. There always needs to be a certain amount of running. There needs to be strength training. There needs to be mobility. There needs to be some speed work, and make sure you're getting enough fuel and recovery. However, the distances and the amount and intensity of speed work needs to be different. And it's hard to optimize for two very different things at the same time.
Yeah.
I should say it's not really possible to optimize it.
It would be, that's why so many people at the last Olympics, I forget which, I think he was the Nordic skier. Mm-hmm. Like, the distances that he won golds in, someone suggested that'd be basically like somebody lining up at the Olympics and winning every distance race from the 1500 through the marathon.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like, you just don't see that. Mm-hmm. One, there's a different level of recovery that's required with running versus like cross-country skiing. There's
because of the impact.
Because of the impact. But you just don't see somebody. Jakob Ingebrigtsen ran a half marathon, I want to say somewhere within the last year. And he did not win it. And he crossed the finish line and was like, this was terrible. I never want to do this thing again. And he's one of the best milers in the entire world. Yeah. But suddenly you put it at 13 miles, let alone 26, and this is not what I signed up for.
Exactly. So one other area of shiny objects that we often see a lot of runners falling into as well. And again, y'all, we've done all of these things, so don't think that we're sitting up here on our high horses by any means. We're mentioning these things because we know we've done them. And
it's the view from the high horse.
Yeah, and this is a fun one, which is buying more gear, right? Buying different gear, thinking, oh, it must just be my shoes, or I need a new watch, because like we've mentioned on the podcast before, Kevin's, oh, what is your sleep score? And I'm like, my watch is too old to even give me a sleep score. But if I thought that a sleep score is possible, and that it was not possible, if I thought it was important, then maybe I should buy a new watch, or I should buy the Oura Ring that will give me that information, because that will actually help my training, when in reality I know I just need more sleep.
No, one of the best indicators of how well you've slept is how you feel when you wake up.
Totally.
Not necessarily what number your watch or ring spits out at you.
Yeah. Sometimes I look at that number and I don't have a sleep score, but I do have a body battery. And sometimes I look at the number and I'm like, says who? What are you talking about? Like, I feel great. I don't know where this number came from, or the opposite. Like, sometimes it'll give me a number like in the 90s, and I am exhausted. Like, I feel exhausted when I wake up. So
that's why I like to be up for a little while before I check in and figure out what my watch says about how I feel. Yeah. Like, I like to actually get an idea of how I feel. But it's nice. I like the information because I don't get so bogged down in the information. Yeah. And I love new shoes. Like, I love back when I used to work in shoe stores, gear was amazing. New shoes and new tools and new watches. It's like Christmas every time.
It's so fun.
Every year that the shoes would come out with their new models.
Right.
Oh, yes. Let me try on all of these things so I can see which one's going, just because it was fun and exciting to me.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with new shoes. We love new shoes. It's when you think that the shoes are the reason that you're not getting the results that you want, and you just have to find the right shoe, and you end up spending $1,000 trying to find the right shoe that's going to make you as fast as you think you should be.
I think $400 is where they max out right now.
$400?
Yeah.
I know. I just meant because you're buying multiple shoes.
Well,
so if you buy 5 pairs of shoes, you're easily at about $1,000.
Yeah. If you buy a couple of super racer shoes, and I think the one that's $400 is quote unquote designed to last for one race. Like, you run one marathon in it and then it's done. that might be a little much.
That might be a little much.
It's also, I don't think that the shoe's magic. It's a great shoe.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said about super shoes, that they are in fact better for most people as long as your body responds to them. But they're not necessarily the tool that's going to move the needle more than consistent training.
And so that was me with this training platform. I thought that this new strength training platform was going to give me the easy way out. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, I am going to be 100% transparent and honest, because I wanted like an easy way to track all these strength metrics, and I also wanted a bigger strength library, because I had a ton of videos filmed, but I still have so many videos on my phone of strength exercises that I have filmed that I just needed to go back and do the voiceovers for, and I never did it. And it was just like, if I transfer over to this platform, it'll already have it done. Like, it already has thousands of videos built into this platform, so I don't have to build out my own video library. But that ended up being a problem, and I was avoiding the real problem. And that's what we see so many runners doing, and things that we've done in the past as well, which is avoiding some of the basics. It's not that most runners nowadays are not lacking information. And we've talked about that on the last couple of episodes. We introduced our 4I framework. It's that they are avoiding the integration and the execution. So if you missed the last couple of episodes, it wasn't last week, it was I think the 2 weeks before that, we talked about a new framework, which is the 4I framework, which is the key to any sort of change. So the 4 I's are information, intention, implementation, and integration. So anytime you want to make a change in your life, you need to gather information. That's the information phase. Then your intention, you have to decide what you want to do with that information. Implementation is when you take that and put that into action. And then integration is actually making that a part of your real life, or making that thing a part of who you are. And when we get stuck in shiny object syndrome, it keeps us in two different modes. It can keep us in information mode. So some shiny objects are just trying to gain more and more information, thinking that you don't know enough, or thinking that you don't know enough to take action yet. So you just gain more and more information. So information can be the shiny object. The other thing people get stuck in is implementation and information. So they'll learn something new, and then they'll move into implementation mode. They'll put that thing into action, and then they don't get the results that they want fast enough. So then they go back to information and try to find something else, and then they implement something else. And then they go back and forth between implementation and between information and implementation, but they never actually move it into integration. That's one of the biggest issues here.
Yeah, because the intent isn't ever really there.
Right.
It's never with the idea of how is this going to become a worthwhile component of my overall training. This is the most important thing. And so I think one of the things that happens with shiny object syndrome is you keep adding more things to a training plan, and some of the core pieces fall away. And this is why, as I'm trying to build up a whole bunch of strength, I want to make sure that my strength plan fits in with my running plan.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go all in on strength to the detriment of my running plan. And I think that's where people are like, you look on social media, everything's, it has to be zone 2, or it has to be all these different things that pop up. It was HIIT training for a little while, and people went all in on HIIT training, and they lost everything else from their training. And now it's L2, and it's only L2, and you lose everything else from your training. And it's missing a lot of how does this all come together into an overall cohesive training plan. Shiny object can just be like, this is the one thing that's going to magically fix it all, where it's no, it's one extra component. Like when you're baking, you have to make sure that you actually put baking powder in. But if all you add is baking powder and there's no flour in it, it's not going to magically rise, because baking powder doesn't rise. It adds the air and the fluffiness to the actual cake. You can't just make the cake out of baking powder. It's not going to work.
Yeah, that would be a really gross cake. I would not like that cake at all.
I feel like it's missing some components there. I think that sometimes that's what Shiny Object does, is it becomes the main component of the training plan, because it's the new thing, so it looks like the coolest part of your training program. just because it's new.
And that's what shiny objects do. They create excitement. And so when they create excitement, they feel very productive, but they rarely create progress, especially if you are caught in that loop of either just learning information and not actually taking action, or you learn new information and then you take action, and you learn new information and you take action over here, and then you take action over there, and then you take action over here. You're not actually moving forward, and you're not actually making progress. You're just moving in a whole bunch of different scattered directions, and then people they don't understand why they're not making the progress, because it feels very productive. It feels like they're doing things all the time, and they're doing the latest and greatest trends that they're seeing on the internet or on social media. But that's part of the problem, is that when you want sustainable progress, you need the basics. You need strength training. You need easy running. You need mobility. You need to recover from that. And you need consistency. Yes, you do need some speed work. You do need some high intensity, but not in the amount that you probably think. Like Kevin was saying, it's not all HIIT workouts. Like, you don't need all high intensity interval training. You just need a little bit of baking powder. That's what, a little bit of seasoning, a little bit of salt. Like, I think about it, like especially intensity types of workouts, that needs to be the seasoning, because if you put a little bit of salt on something, you make it taste better. But if you put too much salt, it quickly becomes inedible. And that's what so many people are doing with their training. They're trying to overload their training with some of these things that really belong as more of a seasoning. Like, this is one of the things that I teach in my live workshop. If you guys haven't come and join me in my live workshop, I would love to invite you. I'm holding them every Thursday in March. So Thursday, this week it's at 2 p.m. I don't know what time you're listening to this, but if it's not, you can go over to realliferunners.com/March, and you can get the class times there. So when you register, you're going to put in your name and your email address, and then it'll take you to the page that shows you all of the current class dates and times. I'd love to see you on one of my live workshops this month, because this is one of the things I'm talking about. And I talk about the concept of the training pyramid and how we have to build a very strong foundation and a strong base in that level 1 before we start living in level 2 or level 3. And so many runners are trying to live in level 2 and level 3 because those are the sexy pieces that people like to put on TikTok or on Instagram, but they forget about building that base. And you can't do levels 2 and 3 without level 1. So if that's you, if you find yourself getting stuck in shiny object syndrome, we're going to give you guys a couple questions here in a little bit to filter out and figure this out if you are caught in shiny object syndrome, or if some of the changes that you're trying to make are actually going to help you move the needle.
Yeah, I like the salt analogy better, because you need salt in baking, but you don't need a lot. Otherwise, it's not baking anymore. It's just salty food, and that's not going to necessarily work for you.
But there are times that you do need an overhaul. And I think it's important for us to point that out, too, before we move into our question filter. Because here we are saying, most likely you don't need an overhaul. You just are getting stuck in shiny object syndrome. But there are some times where you do need an overhaul of your training.
Your plan may, in fact, have some issues with it. This is not a never change your plans and adhere to the same plan for the next decade, because sometimes new information comes in and actually it is super important.
Yes.
It does stick around. Sometimes people think that something is new and it's actually just a training method from the 1950s that we've already determined that you shouldn't do intervals 5 days out of the week. But that's a side tangent. Anyway, so this isn't just never change anything. Sometimes you do need the big change. For instance, should I steal your thunder? No.
Go for it.
I'm going to go.
Steal it.
If you don't have strength training in your training plan, you have to overhaul your training plan to fit it in.
Amen.
It has to be there.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
It has to come in.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that you have to give up running and that you're only strength training. Mm-hmm. You have to find a way to fit strength training at least 2 times a week into your training plan.
And that might mean that you need to run less. And there's a lot of runners that don't want to hear that, but especially at the beginning when you're adding strength training in, this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making, is that they don't adjust their running at all, and then they just add strength training on top of what they're already doing. And they wonder, why am I so sore? Why am I tired all the time? And then they stop strength training because that was the extra ingredient that they added in, and then they didn't feel good because They just added more load to their system, but they didn't increase their recovery. They didn't reduce their running so that their body could actually adapt to the new training load. So it does require an actual system upgrade for when you do this. Like, you have to change things around. You can't just keep doing what you're doing and then add this on top of it.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were just talking about of your 4 eyes. You have to be able to integrate it. And when I made a significant upgrade to how I was putting strength training into my plan, I also pulled back drastically on volume. And now that I've figured out how to integrate it, I'm not going to start ramping volume up huge, but I could get back to where I wanted my volume. For a few weeks, I was not really excited about my volume levels, but I knew that I needed it so that I could really get my strength working the way it was supposed to go.
Yeah.
And now that I've got that back, I can bring my running not necessarily to the volume that I'm aiming for, but to a volume that I can also be able to focus on increasing strength while still running amount that keeps me happy. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And another time you might need a complete overhaul is if you're going out and running all of your runs too hard. So if all of your runs feel like a 5 out of 10 or above, if you are running all of your runs at a medium effort or a moderate or a medium hard effort level, you need an overhaul of your plan, because that is not the best or most sustainable way to train at all. That's a road to injury. It's a road to exhaustion. It's a road to burnout, especially if you're a runner over 40.
Yeah, you say running every run too hard, but that's also not ever running runs hard enough. If everything's
Also
a 5, if there's nothing above 5 and nothing really below 5, it all just is a blend of 5. Sometimes you're like, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 6. Now you're living in 5.
Yeah.
You got to have some verities, because you're right. It doesn't progress, and it often leads to injuries, which is the next one of you have constant injuries.
Yeah.
If you're injured all the time, there may be something seriously wrong with your training plan. It needs a massive overhaul.
Or if you just don't have a plan, it's time to upgrade your entire operating system. Like, you need to be on some sort of plan. It doesn't have to be strict. It doesn't have to be rigid. Like, we very much are proponents of having a flexible plan and having ideas for what you want to do throughout the week. Like, it's not that you need to have your pace for every single run planned out. We actually advise against that. If you have a goal pace for every single run, that can get rigid really fast, and that can lead to a lot of mental burnout and just setting yourself up for failure. But if you don't have any sort of plan, it's important for you to get on a plan.
Yeah. Do you think the plan needs flexibility or mobility?
Good one, Kev.
Thank you.
Good one. You can define it however you want.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, like you said, when you are upgrading your plan, it still needs to have all these things. There needs to be a structure to it, so that that base level of structure allows you the flexibility to move things around when you need it. It allows you the opportunity to be like, oh, I was sick for these 3 days, so here's how I make the adjustments. If you're just winging it every single day, then you never are quite sure how to make adjustments. If you have some basic structure to the plan, you can move things around, you can adjust things from one week to the next.
Right. And so you might need to cut back mileage. You might need to change your schedule. You might need to build a new structure. And those things are not shiny object syndrome. That's foundational level improvement. And that's what I thought I was doing when I was doing this whole platform upgrade, going back to my example in my story. I thought that's what I was doing. It turns out that's not actually what was happening. I needed to take the current system that I was using, because our current system was great. It is great, and now we're back to it. So it is great. And one of the things that I realized is that I was going for the shortcut. In my mind, this was going to be the easy way to have all the videos already done. I didn't feel like filming and editing and voiceover and doing all the work that was required to rebuild the video library and update the video library from where it was. And what I realized was that's what actually needed to happen. I needed to have a foundational improvement to the system that I was already using. It wasn't that I needed a whole new system. So that's what I'm doing now. Like, I'm just taking what I have and making it even better. And so far, our members are absolutely loving it and very happy.
Yeah, you had the running or the real life equivalent of being like, I'd like to train like 50% for this marathon and then buy super shoes and that's going to make it work.
Sounds like a good plan.
It's not a good plan.
Not a good plan.
It's not a good, but it's also trending on social media. The number of people that are like, watch me run a marathon on no training. Why is that a thing? That should
Not a good idea.
Should not be a thing.
Couch to marathon, this does not seem like a good idea.
But it's all over the social media.
Oh, no good. All right, so how can you decide? Like, how do you know, is this shiny object, this new thing that I'm bringing in or this new thing that I'm focusing on, is this just another shiny object? Or is this a fundamental thing that I'm actually trying to improve? Is this an enhancement, an improvement, an upgrade? So the first question that you want to ask yourself, is this improving a fundamental skill? So fundamental skills are strength, mobility, your running or your aerobic base, recovery, consistency. All of these things are fundamental skills. So if you can answer yes, it's likely an upgrade. And if not, it could be a distraction.
Also, is it creating a fundamental? Are you missing any of those things?
Yes.
Because if you're missing any of those, this is just an upgrade because these are things that need to be in your plan. If you're already covering those things and you feel like you're pretty competent at it, then maybe that new recovery tool is not actually an upgrade to your recovery. Maybe it's just a new thing that you're like, this will magically, drastically improve my recovery.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's just a new tool that you could buy.
Right. If it's too good to be true and you're looking for it, will this magically improve it? That's probably a good sign that it's a shiny object.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need the recovery tool as much as you could use
some extra sleep and some water.
And protein.
Some extra food.
Yeah.
All right, question number 2. Am I trying to improve something or escape something?
Oh, that sounds like it actually makes you do some mental work on that one.
Know,
like the whole,
but
am I trying to escape something?
I know, but I'll always throw myself under the bus. I'll use myself as an example. So escape examples, are you trying to escape boredom or discomfort or discipline or slow progress? Are you trying to escape from those things? Are you just not being patient? So for me, I was trying to escape refilming all of my videos and all of the work that came along with that, because I thought that the new exercise library was going to help replace that work that I was not going to need to do.
Okay, so where does starting to run ultramarathons because you're approaching midlife and you're not sure if you're ever going to hit a PR again fall into this category?
I think that you should answer that question,
okay,
not me.
I'm not, maybe.
I know I have not yet taken that step in my own life and training.
Is it possible that I was trying to escape something? I feel like that was a better route than buying a Ferrari.
That's debatable.
Okay, sure, fine.
What is it? Do you have an answer, or are you just trying to make a joke?
Both. I feel like there was certainly flipping to, it goes back to what we said at the beginning. Are you going to a new race just because it's a new thing? And I think that the effect of, I don't think that I was ever really going to hit another PR again. I think maybe I had a chance at PRing in a marathon again.
I think you could have. I still think you probably still can.
I think I probably could if I bought super shoes.
Maybe. There you go. That's cheaper than a Ferrari.
There you go. But yeah, I think that there was definitely an aspect of trying to escape aging.
Yeah, but I think that all runners do this. Like, this is just the natural progression of running. If you watch Olympic level runners, the older they get, the longer their distances are typically.
So your body naturally flips over to more and more slow twitch muscle fibers.
Correct.
So it's hard to maintain.
Because otherwise you're just fighting biology also.
Yes, but isn't that kind of just what running is?
In a way.
We're fighting biology and physics.
Yes and no. I think that we're not necessarily fighting biology, because the whole part of our whole messaging is learning how to work with your body and not against it.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're fighting biology. It's really understanding what changes are happening and doing what we can to work with those changes instead of trying to run away from them or fight them.
Yeah.
But I think that switching distances and changing up your goals based on what you want to achieve is a smart training decision.
There was part of my race change came from definitely my age and recovery from seizures, and now see what else I can do. That is certainly an aspect of it. But there was also like, I think that this would be fun. And I think if fun is driving it and fun is important to you, like I think that there's a level where that helps keep the consistency.
Yeah.
There is certainly pursuit of fun just for fun's sake that screams shiny object syndrome. Of now this seems like the most interesting thing and this seems like the most interesting thing. But if at the end of the day, you're not trying to hit a PR in every race, you are simply going for pure enjoyment, and it does actually help you maintain consistency in physical fitness, that's a lifelong win.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's not shiny object syndrome. That's just having fun with life.
That's seeing that the fun can be the goal.
Correct.
And that's not...
But that goes back to your intention.
Yes.
If your intention is just to see how many different things you can do and have fun with it in the process, fantastic. Like, your goal does not, I'm really glad you said this too, because your goal does not have to always be a PR. It doesn't have to be getting faster. It doesn't have to be running longer. It doesn't have to always be these physically measurable goals. It could just be, man, that sounds fun. I'm going to go do that. That is not what I would consider a shiny object at all.
Okay, good. Then I'm good to go.
No,
all right.
Not at all. All right, question number 3. Have I fully implemented what I already know?
This one might be the most important question that we've had so far.
Yes.
All right. Have I fully implemented what I already know?
And if the answer is no, then you don't need a new system. You just need to integrate the system that you have. Because it means that, like, I should probably be running easier more often or more of the time. Or I probably should be, I know I need to strength train, but I'm not really being consistent with my strength training. I'll usually get strength training like once a week, but I really need to be doing it twice a week. You just need to integrate that, and you need to like actually do the plan. So it's not about finding something else that's going to work better. It's actually doing the thing that you already are doing and actually carrying it out.
Yeah, so that goes back to you don't need a new plan. If you're only doing 60% of the plan, just boost that up. Mm-hmm. See if you can.
If it's just a 75 or 80%.
That's what I was going to say. You don't even have to get to 100.
Yeah.
Because if the only way that you can achieve quote unquote success from your plan is by knocking out 100% of the things, I don't think it's a good plan.
No.
I feel like every plan has to have some wiggle room. If you can get a B on the plan, if you're scoring in the 80s, you should be able to be successful off of it.
Absolutely. And then question number 4, and this one is really important. Will this make my training simpler, or will it make it more complicated? Because oftentimes, real improvements often simplify things. There might be some extra work at the beginning, but overall, they're going to keep things more simple, whereas shiny objects add more complexity oftentimes to things. So, is this going to make it overall more simple, or is this going to make it overall more complex? And this is one of the things that actually a good time, I think, to mention. There's new recommendations that came out from the American Academy of Sports Medicine and, the American College of Sports Medicine, ACSM. And this week they updated their strength training recommendations. And it's like the first time they've done this in over a decade. And if you look at what their recommendations are, it really is going back to the basics. And the basics are you need to strength train. You need to be strength training consistently, at least 2 to 3 times per week. You need to use progressive overload on the body. That's how you're going to actually build strength and build muscle. And you need to be doing something that you're actually going to carry out and follow through with. So consistency is one of the most important things. And everything else, like the exact exercises that you're doing, or the way that those exercises are structured, or the rest, or the sets, or the supersets, or if you're lifting heavy or light, or if you're using dumbbells or barbells or resistance bands, like all these different things that social media loves to point out and to show you that this one's better than this. Kettlebells are better than barbells, and kettlebells are better than dumbbells. Like, everybody wants you to know that their thing that they want to teach you or to sell you is the best thing.
And everything else is not just...
And everything else is terrible.
Everything else is terrible. It's not just that theirs is best.
No, it's all...
Everything else might kill
terrible,
you.
Right? And then they try to make it even more complex. Well, you have to do 2 sets at 70% of this and blah, blah, blah. Because when you add complexity, it sounds like they know what they're talking about. And it sounds like they know more than you. And in reality, the more simple that you can make things, the more consistent you will be, and the more consistent you will be, the better results you will have. And when you upgrade and when you truly improve what's going on, that's going to oftentimes be a simple adjustment.
Yes.
It might not be like easy to do at first because you might be breaking patterns and things. There's other layers of complication, but when you actually go through with it, it's going to help simplify.
Yeah, if the complication is pattern interruption to what your routine normally looks like, that's allowed to be the complication. Mm-hmm. The complication should not be that in order to do this exercise, you need to have it written down on like the front and back of a laminated piece of paper because that's how many steps there are. Yeah. That's just too complicated.
I pick things up and put them down.
Yes, that's strength training.
Pick up heavy things.
That's what it is.
Put them down.
You've summed it up because there's various movements that you need. Like you have to be able to push things and pull things and hinge things, and I don't remember all of the terms, but there's not that many of them.
Yeah.
And
I have 6 to 7 core components that I put in every strength training program.
But those are their core components. She doesn't have 6 exercises. She has various movements. You're like, oh, I prefer doing squats. I prefer doing this thing. Okay, great. They're both fine. That's what the recommendations were. The recommendations came out and it just said consistency repeatedly. Like it needs to be something that you're going to do. Like we pointed out earlier, there may be big things that you need to change in your plan. If you're not doing strength training, if you're always running too hard, if you're not eating and sleeping enough, like that's not even in most training plans. But if you're
but that can completely derail and affect your results.
It's like below the foundation of your training plan. If you're like, yeah, I've got my foundation pretty good, but I also fast on all of my runs and I'm only sleeping 4 hours a night. It doesn't matter what your training plan looks like. Yeah. It's going to crumble. Like it may work
at some time, at some point.
It may work for a small window, but it is not a good long-term approach. Like your plan needs to actually be a good long-term approach, which is something that you can do day upon day. And that's my issue with dieting also, is diets work for a small window because whatever they restrict immediately makes it more difficult to follow. And as soon as you figure out how you can follow it easily, and then as soon as you can follow it and it's easy, you can probably start figuring out how to bend rules, and then it's not going to work for you anymore.
And so that's why progress in running, in dieting, in anything usually comes from doing the boring things better. It's making sure that your easy runs are truly easy. It's making sure that your strength training is consistent and you are consistently getting in those foundational movements 2 to 3 times per week. It comes from fueling your body properly and making sure that you're getting enough sleep and doing some mobility work so that your body keeps moving fluidly and you don't have tightness and restrictions. It doesn't come from all the shiny new apps or the new plan every single month or chasing the next best thing. It's the boring things and taking those boring things and doing them better. And like I said, sometimes that does require a little bit of an overhaul. Sometimes it does require more effort in the beginning to build the foundation to then make it much easier in the future. And that's really, again, taking it back to what I built inside of our membership. I've been re-recording all of the videos and improving the cueing and the voiceovers and like the instructions and making sure that things are very clear and having everything the way it's all laid out inside of our member area, improving all of that, which is a lot of work right now. But creating that foundation is going to make everything in the future so much easier and so much more simple and so much easier for our members to follow. Like it's going to make everyone's lives easier.
Yes. And we keep going through this list and I need to say something on it because we keep covering making sure that your strength training and that your easy runs are easy. And one of the things that it seems like we might be poo-pooing on is the whole idea of speed work.
Gosh, no.
It's necessary.
Oh, we love speed work.
It's just that every day you go out can't be like, oh, I have to get in this workout. Oh, the Norwegian training method is super important, and now it has to be the HIIT thing. And you're just trying to shove in so many cool workouts during the week. It's that easy runs are easy enough.
Or you're following one plan for 3 weeks and then jumping to another plan for 3 weeks.
Yeah. But it's that easy runs are easy enough so that when you do the small amount of speed work during the week that is also super important, you can get in quality speed sessions. Like, that's the thing. It's not just, it has to only be super easy runs.
No, definitely not.
That's not the whole idea. Like, you have to get in all the components, but the foundation is...
And speed work is one of the components, but it's one of the ones at the top of the pyramid that we use as seasoning, like the salt.
Yes.
But you have to...
It's not a foundational piece.
It's not a foundational piece, but it is a necessary piece if you want to get better.
Yes.
But you can't add that until the foundation is solid.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're listening to this episode, I want you guys to ask yourself, what is one thing that is coming up for you that you should be doing it, but maybe you haven't fully integrated that yet. Or maybe you need to make a little change or a slight improvement in a certain area, but you haven't really done that yet. Maybe you've gotten distracted by other shiny objects. Like, we all do this. And so the point of this episode is never ever to make you feel guilty or to point a finger, because like they say, if you point one finger, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. We've all done this. It's just to, again, bring that awareness and that reminder of, okay, let me take a look at this and let me see, is this actually serving me? Is this the thing that is actually going to help me move forward? Or is this just keeping me stuck because I'm focusing on things that I think matter, but they actually don't really?
Yeah, because working on the final 1% sounds really cool, but it's the final 1% for a reason. That's
what is all over social media right now, too. It's what people are focusing on with nutrition and things as well. Like, we have to eliminate this one food dye from our American diet, but yet most Americans don't meet the just basic nutritional guidelines of getting enough fruits and vegetables or enough protein in a day or enough calcium. Like, there's so many other huge boulders and rocks that we need to address before we start to look at some of those tiny things.
Yeah, so figuring out exactly what your speed workout needs to look like is far less important than all the other days where you're doing mostly easy running. But the mostly easy running is really boring. Like, we can't sit here and have a whole podcast and be like, easy run and lift heavy things. I feel like we just did have that episode. So we'll see how this one plays.
But it doesn't even have to be heavy things, and it shouldn't be heavy things at first. So if we're going to go to lift heavy things, like, yes, heavy lifting is great for runners, and so is light lifting with and you have to build the foundation by doing light lifts first before you get into heavy lifting. Otherwise, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah, and ideally you put in as much easy running as you can, but that varies. You lift what you can. You lift what's heavy for you. And at first, that might not be very much because your body isn't used to the motion. Yeah. Like, adding in a large amount of easy running for me looks different than adding in a large amount of easy running for you. Mm-hmm. Even if we were training for the same race, we would train in different manners.
Yes.
Because we're different people.
Yeah. And what it basically comes down to is just stop overcomplicating it and be consistent with the basic stuff. Yeah. Be consistent with those foundational pieces, and then you can start to add in the fun stuff. And if you have questions, come talk to us. Like, we're here to help you guys. Yes, we love talking through the podcast with you every single week, but we would love to have some two-way conversations. So come find us on Instagram at Real Life Runners. Send us a DM. You can send us an email, hello@realliferunners.com. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what's going on in your life. Where are you struggling? What do you need help with? Do you have podcast topics you would like us to talk about? We love to hear all that stuff. So if you listen on Spotify, you can also leave comments under each individual episode. So if you have a comment on this episode, we would love to talk to you over on Spotify as well. And as always, if you know someone that can benefit from this, please share this episode. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Help us to find more runners that we can help to remember the basics and really start to make progress in their training instead of getting stuck in shiny object syndrome. So, have you got anything else to leave us with?
No, I think that's about it.
All right. Thanks for joining us. This has been the Real Life Runners Podcast, episode number 453. Now get out there and run your life.